All team, give it everything you got.
It's time to fangirl flail with Fangirls Going Rogue.
Count me in.
I don't think there's anything more important in the Star Wars universe than the fans.
News, discussion, and commentary from the female point of view.
You call this a diplomatic solution?
No, I call it aggressive negotiations.
With your hosts, Teresa Delgado, Tricia Barr, and Sarah Woloski.
Boy, am I glad to hear your voice.
Strap in, because this is where the fun begins.
I like the sound of that.
Welcome, Yub Cubs, to episode 58 of Fangirls Going Rogue. I am Teresa Delgado, one of your hosts, and with me, as always, are my fangirl besties, Tricia Barr from Fangirl Blog. Did you get to watch the red carpet solo premiere?
I did. It looked like fun.
It did look like fun. This one actually looked a lot, because I went back and watched The Last Jedi, and this one looked a lot better. I don't know if that's possible. But it did. And Sarah Woloski from Skywalking Through Neverland, you did not get to see it. I'm sad.
Oh, that's okay. You know what? It's on YouTube. So when I have a free moment, like in 3 months, I'll watch it. It'll be exciting.
Yeah. Now, one of the cool things is they always do the stuff where they interact with the fans and stuff. Tricia, did you get a tweet on the screen? Because I did.
Ooh.
No, I didn't. I was just sort of like watching it in my pajamas. I was at the horse show, so I wasn't even like social mediaing it. I was so lame.
Oh.
And Diva agrees with me.
Yeah, I was tweeting and I did get one on the screen and I took a picture of it because when we were at The Last Jedi, Tricia, someone had done that because one of my tweets from the red carpet was on the screen, but of course I didn't see it. And so someone had taken a picture and they tweeted it out. So this time I took a picture of my own self. And then turns out more people took pictures of the same tweet. And then I had somebody ask me, they were like, well, who were the people that were being interviewed? Because I only heard part of what they were talking about. And my response was, I don't actually know, because I was more concerned about my tweet being on the screen and taking a picture that I stopped listening.
That sounds about right.
It felt terrible. But yeah, it looked so cool. And they got interviews with like basically everybody.
I did like that Alden didn't even notice that the Millennium Falcon was back there.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, that's true.
My first question for you is, did you park that there? Because that's a towaway zone.
Oh, yeah, shoot. You're right. I should. You know what? I've been signing so many things. This sounds ridiculous. I hadn't noticed that.
It's blending in very well.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Wow.
Amelia Clark looked gorgeous, and she got a bunch of questions about Game of Thrones and Star Wars and stuff, and she said that Kit Harington wants to be in Star Wars now. I was like, okay, well,
I could see
your
that.
Your writers are making Star Wars, so maybe they'll stick you in there, right? Oh my gosh. Okay, well, we got news today as we were getting set to record this show. Star Wars Celebration 2019 has finally been announced. It was not announced on May the 4th like we thought it might be. Instead, it got announced on May 16th. No significance to that date that I'm aware of. But Star Wars Celebration 2019 will be in Chicago, and it's April 11th to the 15th at McCormick Place. It's a Thursday to a Monday, guys.
Mm-hmm.
What?
5
What is
days.
that?
I don't know, but I do want to thank Star Wars for dropping this news before we recorded today.
Yes, we didn't get the podcast thing that happens when you record a show and 2 minutes later, by the way.
Yep.
So what do you guys think? What do you think?
Well, I'm excited about it being in a new place. I'm glad it's not in Anaheim or Orlando. It's in Chicago. But the problem with Chicago in April is that it's still basically winter there and kind of snowing sometimes.
Wow.
So it's still cold in Chicago in April. My husband's from Chicago, so that's kind of the nice thing about it being there. I don't know if I'll be able to go or not, but if we do get to go, I'm pumped for other reasons, because even though he's from Chicago, he's never taken me to the Bean, and now I can be like, we're going to the Bean.
Yes.
So yeah, just goofy things like that, but I'm okay with it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, living here in LA, I was really, really, really crossing my fingers for it to return to Anaheim. So that was a little bit of a blow there, because it would be really nice to just drive 19 minutes down the street to the convention center. However, now we have to, book a hotel and all that stuff. But I do like Chicago because a lot of my extended family is from Milwaukee, which is just an hour north of there. So growing up, I actually visited Chicago a lot, and I think it's a great city, and it's beautiful, and I have visited the Bean, and the lakefront is gorgeous, and this convention center is right along the lakefront. So I think it will be a fun place and a fun location to make new memories with everyone.
Okay, I've never been to Chicago, so I have to ask. I got to play, what's the Bean?
Oh,
so the Bean is a sculpture, and it is basically a big silver structure that looks like a bean,
and it's gigantic, and it's gigantic, and it's reflective. And you can take all kinds, and you can take all kinds of cool pictures. Like with the almost like that mirror effect that makes you look skinny and then makes you look fat. Yeah.
And like stuff like that.
But it's fun because it's very reflective.
Cover photo in front of the Bean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it reflects the whole skyline of Chicago too. Like it's in the middle of a park. And so like you can look at yourself looking all weird, but then you can also see all the buildings like curving around the Bean too. So it's like it's taking Chicago and making it a Dali painting.
Yeah, it's very cool. And there's, one of the other things about of it being there is I can almost see myself like on the Monday of Celebration, not even going to Celebration and going to museums, because the Natural History Museum is near there and the Science and Industry Museum. And then there's just so much other cool stuff when you're there. And the Museum of Art in Chicago is amazing. And of course I've seen all of this stuff, but like if I'm up there, I want to see it again. I want to go. Yeah. So, and Tricia, you will love the Science and Industry Museum. It's amazing. It's totally up your alley. Like, I would love to go there with you just to watch you interact with all of the science engineering stuff.
And then after we go to that museum, we have to go to Gino's Pizza and have the deep dish Chicago pizza. It's amazing.
Well, that's what I see a lot of people talking about, is that there needs to be eating going on. Yes. There's a lot of good food in Chicago. And I'm wondering, some people have brought up the miserable lines last time that weren't handled well, that people got line jumped. But I do remember Indianapolis. It was cold at that celebration. 3, and people just didn't get out of line, even to see George Lucas. They were like, I'm staying in bed, it's sleeting. So maybe they're hoping for some help from the weather. But everybody's told me that it's gonna be cold, like more likely than not. So
I saw your tweet about that. Y'all are scaring me.
Y'all are scared. Yeah, it's gonna be windy, it's gonna be cold. Make sure you bring layers, a hat, gloves, the whole thing, scarves. Get all your Star Wars winter gear coming up this winter. Make sure you're decked out. Fashion will be a little bit of an issue if I do end up going, because all the fashion is basically made to be not warm or not cold. So layers, I don't know how that's going to work. Cold shoulder, not working. Not awesome. The things you think about when you're thinking, oh, what am I gonna wear? I have this dress and this dress and this dress, this cold shoulder thing, this romper that's shorts. Nope, can't wear any of it.
Leggings.
Everybody needs those puffy jackets that you can smush up into a little ball and put in your backpack once you get inside.
Everyone is gonna be wearing the Leia Hoth vest.
I was gonna say, I've got that as a layering piece.
There you go.
Well, it's funny because, about, 4 to 6 weeks ago, Star Wars News Net had broken that it was going to be in Anaheim as a news piece. Okay. And then they sort of had to retract that.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of glad that the people who, people in the middle of the country since 3 have had to hoof it to one coast or the other. And now I see a lot of people excited they get to drive this time. And some of us will have to fly. So it'll be, I think it's cool to go someplace different, and we'll get a totally different vibe of Star Wars. It would have been cool if they were going to be doing the Lucas Museum there too.
I know. No, you got to come out here for that.
Yeah. So, Chicago, they got one way, didn't get the other, but it's fun. It's fun. I'm excited.
Well, I mean, the one interesting bit of news is it's 5 days. So I'm wondering if perhaps Monday will be kind of like a half day thing, or if Sunday can be like a full-on convention day. I think that's great, because I know D23 Expo every other year is only 3 days, and it's just too short. You need at least 4 days. So I'm really glad that Celebration is expanding to 5 days, and yay. All right, so with Solo coming out, actually, us fangirls, we were all interviewed by Jill Sargent of Reuters for a piece that she did on Reuters, and it's called Good Feeling or Bad Feeling About Young Han Solo. Star Wars fans, wait and see. And so the article, of course, is about whether or not we are excited or not about Solo, and we were quoted a couple times. So we want to thank Jill for that interview.
Yeah, it was a really fun interview. We had a good time doing it. We definitely said a lot more than they were able to get into the piece, but I think the quotes we had were really good, and they were both about the 2 of the main characters. So that was pretty nice. I think, Sarah, you were quoted about Han Solo and Harrison Ford, and then I got to talk about the Lando thing.
Oh, yeah.
Basically perfect. Lando being awesome. So, but yeah, I mean, we definitely said a lot more, and that's the only thing I don't like about written interviews, is that everything you talk about doesn't make it into a written interview. Mm-hmm. Because we have so many good things we say sometimes that no one ever hears.
And we had notes, and we prepared. I mean,
we were ready. I felt more like in the interview they were expecting it to be like, yeah, we don't want these new actors to come in, and we're not ready for this. And I felt like we were giving answers that were way more excited than the mainstream. Yeah. Oh, my favorite moment though was, did you see on ET when they surprised Alden and Harrison Ford came out? And
yes.
He said, if anyone asks, tell them I told you everything you need to know and that you're not allowed to say a word.
He might want to say 1 or 2 more things.
Oh my God.
Get out of my chair. I just thought it was spectacular. And I thought he was so smart about what he did and how he did it. I just couldn't be happier.
Wow.
Like we said when she was asking us, I think we're all really open to everybody coming in and playing different characters, but I don't know, I always feel like the animation makes us more willing to accept all sorts of things from Star Wars.
I agree. So, I mean, animation by its very nature, you have to suspend your disbelief to believe what you're seeing is taken in some form of reality.
Well, after the Clone Wars Mortis arc, nothing in The Last Jedi felt wonky, force timing, whatever.
Exactly.
In some early stuff in Rebels, when we saw Yoda kind of, hanging out and, that kind of stuff, I was like, yeah, none of this stuff surprises me.
Definitely.
Speaking of interviews and news and articles, and then there was this article in the Wall Street Journal that happened to drop on the day of the world premiere, called Intrigue and Drama on the Set of Han Solo. So did you guys all read this?
I did, yes. And I admit, as I was reading it, there was a part of me that was going, but yes, I did.
In a good or bad way?
I don't know. It was just more of can we not focus on this? Let's just be excited. But yeah, I did read it, and I was just kind of like, okay.
Right.
Well, it's interesting because the article kind of goes back and, talks about like the uses the history of Solo, which some people, they still flash that picture up of Lord and Miller on the, when they're like, oh, Solo movie, and they show the cast photo with Lord and Miller, and I'm like, why do they keep using that picture? But that's how like untuned a lot of people are to even who's directing. Like, people don't even realize that Ron Howard came in and took over, but the Wall Street Journal is going to use it kind of as an interesting way to focus in on other things that happened. Did any of you guys listen to the podcast interview with Tony Gilroy that they brought up in this article?
No,
I have not.
It's a really good interview just about filmmaking and storytelling.
Which podcast?
Now I'm going to have to look it up on the article.
Yes, you do.
And but in the podcast, while I look this up, it's him and another screenwriting friend, and they just go into storytelling, and he happens to talk about coming into Rogue One, and then he says it was a mess when he got there. Essentially, like I could only go up from where I came in was his take on it, and that's the first time that Tony Gilroy's even really talked about the movie. So that was
this is Rogue One, right?
Yeah, about Rogue One, not about the Solo movie. But the standalones kind of get this. They're getting this conversation because functionally Tony Gilroy shot the movie, and Gareth Edwards, when the press run came up, they put Gareth Edwards out there and talked about it, but he really didn't, he didn't complete the movie. But the interesting thing was they said that Kasdan, who obviously has written now the Solo movie with his son, John, and wrote Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, was consulting on The Last Jedi too, which was never really talked about either. So it was just interesting that they brought up some things that we hadn't heard before. They also had a point that Kathleen Kennedy is far more a producer and a manager than a creative mind.
Yeah, that was a good quote.
Yeah. Also, what's interesting, because I attended the press conference for Solo, A Star Wars Story, and was able to hear the Kasdans. They got asked several questions, including one by me, and I was actually really impressed by John Kasdan himself. Like, everything he said was just gold. I mean, he really knows storytelling. You can tell he's learned from his father, and he's just excited to share his knowledge with the world. And one of the things that I also learned at the press conference was the fact that John Kasdan was actually a big help on set in terms of knowledge of Star Wars. So like Ron Howard would be like working on the film and just trying to make the story beats work and get to the heart of the story. But when it came to any technical or any knowledge of overall Star Wars, he turned to John for that.
You know what I find really interesting about John Kasdan? His voice is exactly like his dad.
Yes. Yep.
Well, when I got involved back on The Empire Strikes Back, I don't think I ever thought of it, this is Star Wars. I thought what had gotten me when I had no connection to it on A New Hope was this was a great story.
Yeah, we approached the movie much more in terms of, is there a kind of genre movie, a crime movie, a Western that we could fit Han Solo into, a character that we loved and that comes out of a great tradition of Bogart characters and McQueen characters, and say, okay, how do we plug that guy into the kind of movie we love and the kind of story we want to see?
Could you imagine the two of them like talking to each other about like the script and just, the whole process? It would be kind of fun. Sarah remembers because it was when Lawrence Kasdan spoke at the Force Awakens junket. As soon as he opened his mouth to ask for ice cream, I knew who it was. Like, I just sort of like,
and you froze.
I did. I froze. I would, if I heard John Kasdan, I would freeze too because he sounds so much like his dad. The podcast, by the way, is The Moment with Brian Koppelman. So that's the podcast with Tony Gilroy talking about storytelling, where he does talk about Rogue One at the end. But I recommend the whole thing. But yes, they do talk exactly like, and Pablo Hidalgo of the Story Group, who's our lore person, actually said that in a Twitter today that John Kasdan had some deep stuff that was even knew more than Pablo did.
Whoa.
So, yeah. So I think, he's definitely a fanboy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's some great stuff in the press conference about that. So, yay. Oh, I wanted to say about this article. This article does go a little bit into talking about how J.J. Abrams is excited to direct episode 9, and Abrams says, I had a bunch of ideas from the beginning, back on 7, of where the story would go, said Mr. Abrams. I just never in my wildest dreams thought I would have a chance to execute them. So, this just, looking ahead to episode 9, now I know 7 was Abrams' baby, so is he just gonna kind of skip over episode 8 and just take episode 7 where he wanted it to go in episode 9? It kind of makes me worried about what's gonna happen with the Star Wars franchise.
Well, Simon Pegg already seeded that with his little comment about he did a podcast too. Now I don't remember where that one is, but I will put it in the show notes, where he essentially said, because he was one of the trusted advisors for Abrams on the early script of 7, that he thought that JJ had some different ideas as far as who Rey was. That was, and then the fandom loses its mind.
Wow.
One of the interesting things about looking at as a storyteller is that 7 and 8 are so close together that if you think about every other movie, it's separated from the next movie by some distance, a year, 5 years, whatever. So you end up being able to see kind of characters progress, but we don't see them progress in 7, 8. We just see kind of like a week or 10 days out of their lives.
Okay.
So you can functionally do almost anything with a character.
Okay.
As a storyteller. So yes, J.J. Abrams could essentially do whatever he wants. And I think that could be a problem, that the movies will feel disjointed.
Right.
But because especially we have things to compare it to now, like looking at, say, how connected Marvel feels.
Oh, yeah.
How connected everything in Captain America and Iron Man feels to what's happened in Avengers. Everything that happened in Thor is connected. There is a potential that people go, wow, we are not sure they had a plan.
I'm not
I'm not sure they do have a plan, to be honest. I mean, Rian Johnson said he was really allowed to do what he wanted to do. And some people feel that The Last Jedi is a natural progression. Others feel like it's not. So, it really depends on, and I've watched J.J. Abrams tell stories for a long time. He has a specific sensibility, and it's not The Last Jedi.
Right.
So as far as something that does not feel disjointed at all, because they are all awesome, Forces of Destiny, the new set of shorts that we have gotten, are amazing.
Woohoo!
Oh my gosh.
I just get my princess niece the Ewok out and be like, she's into shorts now.
Oh my gosh. The Ewok presence was amazing, which is great. But there were just some really good, solid episodes. And I know, Sarah, you haven't seen them yet, but there's some good stuff in there.
Thanks for ratting me out.
You're welcome.
You have time. You can watch it and edit it out.
I can't.
That's true. You own the magic cursor.
It's like 2 minutes. 2 minutes between.
I know.
Putting a new tile down in the kitchen.
But you know what? This is what happens when you have a husband who loves Star Wars as much as you, is you have to wait for each other to watch it together.
No. See, I would still watch it and then just say I hadn't. And then.
Well, see, now that's on the air. That's on you.
Oh, well, he knows.
But I do have something.
Shows all the time.
I do have something to contribute to the Forces of Destiny conversation, though.
What's that?
I got my Ahsoka.
I can't believe with all the pictures you do of the Forces of Destiny dolls that you and posing them at different places that you haven't seen these. Oh my god!
I know. So what I'm gonna do, because well, as you girls know in our pre-conversation, my kitchen is a disaster, is that on Instagram now for Jedi Tink, you're going to be seeing a lot of pictures of Ahsoka and maybe a few other cameos of other Forces of Destiny dolls, as our kitchen is not in a flood anymore and getting better. So Ahsoka will take us around the kitchen in these next couple months.
Yeah, I just was like kind of hoping they were going to show up in stores, but now I don't think they're going to. So
yeah,
lame. But Tricia, which of the Forces of Destiny shorts from this new wave is your favorite?
Leia with the green lightsaber.
Oh my gosh, mine too. Yes. It was so good. You know what I loved about it was just the interplay between brother and sister was one of the best things ever. It was. Cool.
I mean, we got the whole sibling thing. It made me smile because I don't know, because I miss them even more now after The Last Jedi. But it was so, well, one, we know a lot of people talk about where's the green lightsaber. And I'm like, Leia's had it all along. They're telling us this. She took it. Did you see her? She's like, no, I'm keeping this. I could just tell.
Leia, catch!
It's even better than a spear. Thanks.
Anytime. Can I have that back now?
Teresa, were there any others other than we both liked that one that you really liked?
I actually really enjoyed the Padme one where the whatever monster that is was all upset and trying to get inside of this building. And turns out these like smuggler gangster people had taken the monster's baby, and she discovers it and she saves the baby.
These creatures don't normally come near land.
Then it must be here for a reason. Let's find out what it is.
Yes, Your Majesty.
Was nice because a lot of people were like, finally Padme without Ahsoka, although we like Ahsoka, but Padme got to do something by herself, because she always has to be somebody on somebody else's team. And then I don't know that's one of my favorite outfits, that just she's in the Handmaiden, the Phantom Menace attack.
Yeah, it's from that time frame. It's like when she was still queen.
And I like the missing scene. The Finn Rey from The Force Awakens with the speeder. So that was it wasn't a finished scene. It was cut from the movie. But then there's a whole thing where Rey and Finn have to go and get everything so that Han and Chewie can get in and get the detonators set. So we kind of got to see that fun little chase, but animated. So that was fun.
Yeah, I agree. There's just a lot there. Forces of Destiny does a really good job of just some fun Star Wars right when you need it.
We made it. Okay. From now on, you fly.
And you shoot.
Okay, so Tricia, since you really liked the brother-sister interaction just like I did, we are going to get a chance to see more of that in a new book series that's coming out called Flight of the Falcon. And these are going to be like middle grade books, and there's going to be a story about Luke and Leia stealing the Falcon.
These sound amazing.
But they do.
It's just so exciting. So this book series called Flight of the Falcon, like I said, it's a middle grade series. It's coming from Lucasfilm Publishing, and it's going to start coming out in time for Star Wars Reads Day in October. And it's these stories mostly all focused on the flight of the Falcon, and there's going to be a timeline and maps essentially in each book to show where the Falcon is and sort of how it's changed hands and who's seeking it and all of this stuff. So they take us from a time just before Solo: A Star Wars Story, when Lando and L3 have it, through the original trilogy and then into the new trilogy, and it's supposed to end on Batuu, which is so cool.
Whoa.
So there's going to be...
and for people who don't know what Batuu is...
Oh, sorry. That is the
Star Wars land.
Yes, in Galaxy's Edge.
Where we end up when you go on Star Tours.
Yes.
You end up on Batuu. I'm so excited about that. Oh my gosh. I'm going to be sitting on my Batuu waiting for these books.
So among some of the other stories that we're going to get will be a new installment of the Star Wars Choose Your Destiny line of tales. And I have the first Star Wars Choose Your Destiny with Han and Chewie, and it's so fun. But I will say when I started it, I picked all the wrong things, and my story ended in like 3 minutes.
It's the Choose Your Own Adventure books.
You can do over.
Yeah, I did. And there's going to be a Luke and Leia adventure written by Cavan Scott. And it's where the twins must steal the Falcon for a top secret mission. There's going to be a story called Star Wars Pirates Price. And that will be showing us a little bit of Hondo. What? I like that. I'm so excited.
They're middle grade books, ages 8 to 12, but perfect for anyone who loves a good Star Wars story. Hey, that sounds like us.
Oh my gosh, I am so pumped for these.
Yeah.
Speaking of Choose Your Own Adventure, did any of you guys do the Star Wars Twitter sabacc game where you could deal your hand?
No, did I miss it?
Well, if you responded to the tweet, then they would start you in on the deal. And then you essentially got to pick if you wanted to hit me or not. And I managed on my first try to win.
Wow.
So you go up a card. So you get to pick options, and then you're trying to get to 0. And I managed. So I got a real sexy poster of Han Solo as my prize. It's an image, just an image, a virtual poster in Twitter. It's all on Twitter, but it's in there. We'll put it in the show notes. So if you start the game, then they deal you in.
So I can still start the game?
I think you can. I think if the tweet's still there, you should be able to respond. And it's probably just a bot that responds to you.
Who has this tweet, and where do we go?
It's Star Wars Twitter.
Okay.
Is their official account. And it says, if you want to play the game, respond to this tweet. And then it tweets back a tweet feed that you get to start picking your hands. So,
cool.
It's fun because it's a little more interactive, kind of like that, like Choose Your Own Adventure. So I'm like, I got to do this. And then the first time I'm like, I got to 0. Yay. Just fun, stupid stuff. Hopefully, like at Galaxy's Edge, but 2, we could play sabacc if they have not gotten this opportunity to do stuff like that.
While we're sitting on our batus in line.
Well, how about like a celebration? Everybody sit there and,
we need an iPhone app game. We need an iPhone app game of sabacc that you can play like through Facebook or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Anyway, speaking of words, we all read a book and it was fabulous. And it was filled with Disney and purple and teal and all kinds of really cool art and colors and motivational inspiration. And it's called It's Your Universe, and it's written by Ashley Eckstein, and it's, well, for me anyway, it was stunning. I loved it so much.
Me too. Like, I was crying in like 3 parts of that book, because there's one point in the book where she's talking about how she's hangry because she didn't have lunch, and she almost skipped her audition to be Ahsoka Tano. And had she skipped it, we would probably not all be sitting here right now talking to each other.
I know, right?
And the Icelandic accent.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was crazy, too.
I want to know what that sounds like.
Yeah, I know. I want to hear her do it sometime.
Mm-hmm.
If we ever get to talk to her, we need to remember to ask her to do her Icelandic accent.
I like that there were places to write stuff down. Like,
I love the journal.
Inspiring me. I'll write something here. Remind yourself what your dreams are. Write them down.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Here's my issue. I love that. I love that concept. I have problems writing in books. That was one of my things. I always had issues with annotating for school because I'm like, no, I'm writing in the book. You don't write in the book. And then I was thinking, okay, if I was going to write in this book, what pen am I going to use? Because it's sort of a glossy paper. So you almost need to use like a Sharpie pen or something so it doesn't smudge.
You know what you can do is you can take a fresh new notebook and you can label it and date it. It's Your Universe. And then you can like write the page numbers down, and then you can write in your notebook where you're supposed to be writing in the book, and that way you can have a reference.
That's true. So, did you guys have a favorite part of the book or anything?
I just like the energy, the whole energy of it.
You know, my favorite part was the Rapunzel colored glasses.
Oh yeah, I knew that when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, Sarah's gonna love that.
Yes. Oh, okay. So Ashley Eckstein was writing how, like, now one of the princesses she feels connected to is Rapunzel because she always looks at the bright side of things and, you know, is very positive, and she looks at the world through Rapunzel colored glasses. And then Ashley Taylor illustrated Rapunzel with glasses. It was amazing. It was like the cutest image ever, and she's holding her little book, and I love it, and I want to get that signed. And I'm gonna actually go see them on I think it is May 25th at the Wonderground Gallery.
Oh, nice.
This month. Yeah, and they're both gonna be there. The Ashleys will be there. So I want to go and visit. And there is some special information regarding that particular meet and greet with the Ashleys that you can find on the latest episode of Skywalking Through Neverland. So this is my tease, because we actually interviewed Ashley Eckstein for our, I believe it's episode 212, and she dropped some exclusive information regarding that screening and regarding some fun dresses coming out at the Disney dress shop also on that episode. So head over there if you want even more inspiration from Ashley and Ahsoka, because she's just so amazing, you guys.
Yeah, she is. And I'm going to get to see her on the book tour when she comes to Frisco on June 8th. I'll be driving up there. It's just her, though. There's the other Ashley won't be there, which is kind of a bummer, but it's all good. I'm just excited to get to see her. So, I get to drive by my favorite beef jerky place on the way and get beef jerky. So it's a win.
Yeah.
She's going to be at Galactic Nights too.
Oh, that's right.
At Hollywood Studios. So they're doing that to celebrate Solo. So she'll be there this Memorial Day weekend.
Awesome.
Yeah. So if you haven't picked up this book, it's available everywhere that books are sold. There's also an audiobook that is read by Ashley if you wanted to do it that way. But really, as cool as the audiobook is, you need to buy it because of the art that is in it. And there's a chapter of the book called Trust that has some amazing Moana artwork that I just about fell over when I saw it. It was just like, this is fantastic. Oh my gosh. So you need to buy it. And also, if you're a fan of Ashley, definitely go and buy it. Maybe we'll get more books. I'd be excited.
Yeah, and if you have a fangirl, a young woman in your life, or even a young boy, like, this is a great gift for them. Just to get a kid really learning how to follow their dreams. Like, you're always told, hey, wish upon this star, but how do you, like, actually follow through and do it? Well, this book helps you do that.
Dreaming it and doing it.
Exactly.
All right, so we also wanted to just briefly talk about, since it already happened, Solo was screened at the Cannes Film Festival on May 15th, which is very cool. And this is not the first time a Star Wars movie has been screened at Cannes. Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith were both played there. They weren't for competition. They were just screened there for one of the first times. So I did have a question, though, Tricia. I want to know your thoughts on this. Why do you think they felt it was important to screen it at Cannes?
I think the international exposure. Just, it's funny because Ron Howard's last screening there was for Da Vinci Code. Yeah. And apparently it did not go well. They can be very rough, the audience. The French have their own way of participating in the festival, and it didn't go well. But they did get a 4-minute standing ovation this time.
Oh, good.
At the screening. So that was good. Because I was probably thinking, Ron Howard got a call, says, hey, we're screening it at Con. And he's like, oh, no. He's like, great.
Okay, I want to know who's on the stopwatch for this 4-minute ovation.
Who knows? You know, it wasn't a juried screening, so it's not getting judged. It's just there to kind of get. It was on the recognition, I think it was like on the to get kind of over there. I don't know if y'all saw Thandie Newton's dress.
Yes. Oh, I did. Yes.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't seen the pictures of it, Thandie Newton is Val, and she in Solo, she had a dress that was custom made for this, and they printed on existing fabric action figure, the black action figures that have existed in Star Wars before her, because she's the first Black woman on screen, right? We've had Maz was not, Lupita Nyong'o was in Get Up, so and we've had some Twi'leks and whatnot, but this is the first time where, she gets to be what she is and her natural hair and everything. So this dress was just like killer. I'm like, talk about making like a statement. It's like, yeah, I'm the first Black woman wearing the few Black men that came before me. Very few, but it was really cool. Just the way they did it. And the dress was beautiful. And she totally slayed it. So.
Oh yeah. She looks awesome. Not to mention, there is a picture of her and Donald Glover's in the background, and he's just like, yo, what's up?
I think he has that permanently on his face. That look.
Yeah. Did you see Emilia Clarke's total rant about asking about being a strong female character?
No.
Well, I think we should play the clip.
Whenever there seems to be a heroine in a movie or TV series, such as Star Wars, the characters you play in Star Wars or Game of Thrones, there's this definition in the press where people say, you're a strong
woman.
Strong female character.
How does it feel to play a strong woman? I'm like, I'm going to tell you how it feels to play a woman. The end. That's it. Take the strong out of, find another adjective, damn it. It's just playing, I'm just playing women. Why do they need to, if it's not strong, what is it? You telling me that there's another option? There's like a weak option? You think a lead in a movie is going to be a weak? Well, I mean, it just doesn't even bear having the conversation. So enough already with the strong women, please. Let's just be women. But yeah, so I get very frustrated with that in particular, because I'm like, you don't get strong men unless you like physically strong men. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of, so unless I'm like packing guns I don't know about, then let's change the.
And there's journalists here, so maybe we can start with, the training that you just gave everyone.
Yeah.
So that we can stop using that word, because I think people may just do it not knowing.
How it feels to be strong.
Right.
I feel for Emilia because, having been in Game of Thrones and Terminator and all these other movies, and she's just trying to make the point that like, if you're a female character in these type of movies, it's sort of implied. And can we talk about, no one goes like, oh, what's it like, Alden, to play a strong male character in a Star Wars movie? I mean, even if we haven't had a lot of female characters in Star Wars previously, precedent for limited number of them that end up, especially in the original trilogy, the ones that are in the movies are always impactful and have no problem proving that they can hold their own with the men as far as physical prowess. So I felt her kind of like, okay, can we talk about something else energy? And it's always an interesting dynamic, because I feel like the movies are like 5 years behind TV, because TV is doing so well with having so many, I would call them nuanced and well-written female characters. But when you're talking to film executives, and I'll point back to the Wall Street Journal article that we mentioned earlier, the people who are taking the pitches and looking at the overarching story things are Bob Iger, Alan Horn, and Kathleen Kennedy. Even Kathleen Kennedy admitted when she came into Star Wars, she had to look up strong female character and see what the expectation was. So when you're a blogger trying to say, I want better written female characters, you can't use a lot of words. Like if I would say, I want female characters that are a million different kinds of ways, strong female character was the simplest way. You get 3 words to get an exec at a movie studio or someplace like Disney to understand the idea. And then you can like move them on to that. So we're kind of in this area where we're moving beyond strong female characters, but when you're looking at marketing people or execs that are heads like a Bob Iger, that kind of, they can only do like 3 to 5 words. That's executive speak. So,
Interesting.
But luckily, ladies like Emilia Clarke and Ava DuVernay and Kristen Stewart, and I'm trying to think Kate Blanchett, who are all there at cons, and many of them on the jury this time. They had a balanced, diverse jury judging, and they actually had a women's march there.
Wow.
And Kristen Stewart went down the red carpet without her heels the other day, which, there's a rule. You have to wear heels if you're a woman.
What?
Mm-hmm. So, well, she was mad because she couldn't wear flats, so she didn't wear shoes at all.
Shoes at all, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So anyway, there's I feel like there was just like Emilia was kind of going with the vibe of just speaking out at the film festival. So they were exercising themselves, just talking about it. But it's great because Emilia understands the nuance that a female character needs. And that's the most important thing, that they're hiring women that are finding their own voice and how to speak up for that in the long run. So that's kind of fun.
All right. And then the last little bit of news we have here comes from Jon Favreau from the Solo red carpet. He was interviewed about his alien character in Solo. I think he's Rio.
Yes, he is. Sorry, Rio Durant.
Rio Durant.
The Duran named character.
So he did mention that he has already written out about half of the first season of the TV show to be on the streaming service for Disney of the Star Wars TV show. That's crazy.
Yeah.
What?
I wonder what the timeline is for that. Very exciting.
I have a feeling Celebration will be showing us a lot of new things.
Yeah, it's definitely right in the right time period for that.
Yes. To screen shows and talk about them, to
definitely
have panels, all those things. So yeah, I feel like April 2019 is like a thing to say, oh, okay, that's a sweet spot.
Mm-hmm. That sounds great. Well, right now we are in the sweet spot for Solo, a Star Wars story. So I think it's time to get into our conversation about this film.
3, 2, now!
So what's your name anyway?
Hey, kid, there's a big shot gangster. He's putting together a crew.
You think everything sounds like a bad idea.
If you come with me, you're in this life for good.
I waited a long time for a shot like this. I got a really good feeling about this.
Moving forward for the rest of the show, we are going to be talking about Solo, a Star Wars story. So be warned, this is your spoiler warning. Okay, guys, so we have all seen Solo, a Star Wars story. Me being the last one, I'm holding us up. I'm so sorry. Texas usually is amazing, but not in this case.
That's okay. Just for a week, you had to mute your Twitter.
I did. I had to mute my Twitter. It was so liberating today when I could go in and go unmute all the stuff that I had muted. I think I had muted like 20 combinations of words and hashtags and like all my Twitter was so boring. It was horrible. Okay, so when did you guys actually see Solo?
I saw it on the Monday. So that was Monday after the premiere in LA. And so I didn't have to mute mine for too long.
Yeah, I saw it the day after the premiere. So the 11th. Yes. So I didn't have to mute it at all.
Lucky. Yeah, so I didn't see it until today, which is May 21st as we record this. So I am the latecomer. Now, did y'all have anything cool happen at your screenings or anything fun to talk about?
Well, this was a press screening, so there was a guy sitting next to Richard who literally wrote down every word that was said on the film. Like, he was scribbling so fast, I don't even know if he would be able to read it afterward, but it was really kind of annoying Richard, so I felt kind of bad.
Press tend to do that. Although, I've noticed here in Texas, that's kind of gone down a little bit. More people are actually just watching rather than scribbling. But yeah, I've seen that before.
Okay.
Tricia, anything?
We've talked a little bit before about how the press screenings can be different.
Yes.
The last few times I've gone in and had to write an article right after it. So I'm like paying attention, like not going to miss anything. I'm not writing notes down like the guy, but I'm concentrating. But specifically for me, I'm looking for story beats for hero's journey stuff for the insider. So sometimes that takes a little bit of the, you got to be really serious. You can't really just relax and enjoy it. And a lot of the people who are are doing the same thing, right? And then you have other people that are just totally excited in there. My screening was half reviewers and reviewers got to bring a guest. So I guess they weren't overly worried about spoilers. And then some industry people,
Nice.
who were in the area who wanted to see it. So it was like a mix of people.
That's nice. Yeah, ours also, you could have a guest as well. So we had fun. We actually sat next to Laura Siracool, who is the Rose cosplayer.
Oh,
from The
yeah.
Last Jedi. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
She and her husband, we saw each other in line and we went out afterward for dinner. It was fun with her and, Katrina online. She was there too.
Oh,
so.
yay. She was the person who squealed when we asked the question at the Rebels, was that Celebration Anaheim.
Nice.
So she's doing all the work for looking for Leia for a lot of the publicity stuff. So, oh my God. So you were like with friends.
Yeah. Yeah. It was totally cool. Yeah. It was fans that were press. So we had a good screening. Like people were, yelling and stuff. It was fun. Aside from that one guy who was scribbling everything on his pad.
Well, that's pretty cool. So my screening was interesting this time. Press got to bring a guest, which we got to for The Last Jedi as well. But they didn't make press turn their phone in. Just the person that was your guest had to turn their phone in.
Yeah, that was really weird.
I was like, okay, whatever. My rationalization was that it was because our embargo dates were up or something. I don't.
They did it at ours too.
Okay, that is
same
weird.
thing. Well, I'm wondering because there were leaks after the world premiere, but I think they're thinking that the industry people wouldn't leak because there isn't really any. I mean, the industry people know you won't get to go anymore, but a guest might not necessarily have the same incentive, right? To not leak stuff.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Huh.
So here, my funny story about what happened during our screening. It got to a certain point in the movie, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it, and I'll say this is where it happened, but the screen went completely black, and I was like, oh, it's like that moment in The Last Jedi. And then it didn't end, and then it didn't end, and then it didn't end, but you could hear the dialogue.
Whoa, oh, that
and
sucks.
I started looking around going, what is going on? And then the visuals actually came back on. And then it like paused and it like did this weird robotic noise, and then they rewound it.
Oh, well, that's good.
So they rewound it, and they rewound it kind of far back. Like we were all like, no, stop right there. No, like they went too far back. So like the whole theater like gets up and everybody's like, bathroom break.
Oh, wow. Did they go back a long way?
Yeah. And so we all, like even me and my mom included, we were all like, bathroom. So we got up, went to the bathroom, came back.
That's funny. Well, so maybe we should go over like the one question that everyone's going to ask about this film, which is, how did Alden Ehrenreich do?
I thought he was fine, but I'm not attached to Han the way that you guys are, so I think that question is really more for y'all. But I thought he was great. I loved his acting. He was such a good young Han Solo.
You know, to step into that role and to fill those shoes, and he was going to be a different person. I mean, you're different when you're younger. I thought he had the right energy, and I mean, I would buy him as Han Solo again. He was sold. I was sold before, so I don't think I was a hard sell anyway. You know, there are a lot of people who are really like, oh, I don't know, but so I liked what he did.
Okay. Yeah, I had a little bit of misgivings. Like, I watched it. I thought he did a great job, you know, acting, and, you know, he wasn't the full confident Harrison Ford or Han Solo that we meet in Star Wars. He wasn't as jaded either. So I think he played that well, where he still has a good feeling about things. But my only gripe was, to me, he didn't have like the physical presence of Harrison Ford. And I know that can't be helped. I mean, like, just in terms of like, he didn't seem like Harrison Ford. He seems to tower over everyone. He's like in the room. He's like, your eyes are always drawn to him. My eyes weren't necessarily drawn to Alden as much, but I know that he can't help that. So I did enjoy the film, but I think for me, it's kind of like when I saw Beauty and the Beast live action. The first time was a little jarring, but when I saw it the second time, I enjoyed it so much more because I knew what to expect. So I think when I see Solo a second time, I think I'll enjoy it even more because I'll know what to expect and I can fully invest in this Han Solo.
Yeah, well, I mean, Alden Ehrenreich is not the same kind of hot that Harrison Ford is. I mean, that's exactly what it is.
I think that's what I was trying to say.
He's not the same kind of
I like how
hot.
Teresa just like dissected
Yep.
your speak around on that.
I was
We
trying
know
not
each
to
other
say
too
that.
well.
Yeah.
Okay, you can say that.
So let's talk about Donald Glover as Lando. And seriously, for me, this is the one I was looking forward to the most, and he was perfect. Everything about everything he did and said and the way he acted, even his facial structure, like not structure, but his facial expressions, everything were perfect. I was just like, oh my gosh. There's the line when they land on the planet where they're having the coaxium refined.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the name
The
of
very
it.
end planet after they've gone through the Kessel Run.
Yeah, so when they land there and Lando's just looking at his ship and he's like, I hate you. And I never want to see you again. I was like, this is so perfect. And I think the other thing that went really well with it is I had just about finished Last Shot before I saw it. And the Landos across the board from Empire and Return of the Jedi and Last Shot and this just all mesh perfect. And it just felt like such a complete story because I had so much more background with the characters. And L3 was just amazing. Everything about L3.
I thought they could have used like location tags.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
Rogue One.
Yes.
It just felt like it was like, where are we now? Desert planet again? So that was like the one thing that I felt like would have just helped ground where everything was happening because you were keeping track of a lot of information.
True. I would have liked that too.
Yeah. Well, back to your thoughts on Lando and L3. I love their dynamic together. And I think, me too, I had just finished Last Shot, and that really helps to inform their relationship, Lando and L3 especially. And I think Phoebe Waller-Bridge did an excellent job with L3. And I would have to say, like, my favorite line in there, at least for her and him, was when, like Lando, they're in the cockpit of the Falcon and Lando's walking off and he says to L3, oh, can I get you anything else? And she goes, equal rights. My whole theater like busted out laughing. And I actually asked Phoebe Waller-Bridge at the press conference about that line, and specifically, like, did she make it up herself? So, that was an interesting answer I got out of them. But I think, like, everything in her character can kind of be summed up with that line, really. It's kind of like Han Solo saying, I know, instead of, I love you too.
Well, there's the line that she says when they're leaving the planet. We're back to the not knowing where we are. The planet where they first meet Lando. And she said, why? Because you're my organic overlord.
Have you guys seen any of her other stuff that she's done?
I have not. What has she done?
Oh, she has the show Fleabag. I would. So it's not for kids, but it is enjoyable. And if you watch that, you'll totally get where the character's coming from. I'm pretty sure that all of L3 was ad-libbed. So,
well, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
because it was awesome. Well, and then when they're on Kessel and she's like restraining bolts, blah blah blah, and she takes it off, and
that's amazing.
The droid says something to her, and she's like, I don't know, go free all your little friends or whatever. Like, and then she's like, I found my true calling. She's like, rebellion.
Yeah, I just love it. And every time they cut back to the droids, like, more and more of them are free and wreaking havoc in the base.
I've created a distraction.
That's awesome. How about that moment that we meet Chewie? Who saw that coming?
Yeah,
I did. As soon as they said the beast, I was like, oh, it's gonna be Chewbacca.
Okay.
And then as soon as Han starts doing his weird Wookiee that he was doing, I was like, oh god.
Well, Junus had alluded to Alden speaking Shri Rook.
Yes.
Rook. I don't know if I said. And so when he did the first sound, I'm like, oh my god, this is the part, and it was perfect. Him like and then the translations, which are like his really bad take on it. It'd be like, me trying to speak French in France, and totally messing it up. So I appreciated there was quite a bit of humor in just the whole bad take on trying to speak to Chewbacca in his own language. But it was perfect in that, Han Solo is always kind of just making it up, and he's essentially always trying to talk his way out of something. So it's this whole like meta of Chewbacca and Han Solo, Han sweet talking his way out of something and making a temporary alliance that ends up being a permanent alliance. Even when he's like, oh yeah, these are my friends, they'll come back for us. Like, they're more like just an opportunity to get out of a really bad situation. So it's like some people have said the movie started out really slow. And so I wanted to ask what you guys, like, what was your take on, did you think it was slow, or did you think it was like right out of the box?
I did think it was a little slow, thinking back on it. I think maybe that had to do with we jumped around to some planets, and once again, we don't know the planets' names. And so you couldn't really place what was happening as well as, say, in Rogue One, where you have those nice planet names. I'm just trying to think why I thought that way.
I think so. I think some people, it was just trying to get used to new Han Solo.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think for me, actually, the one where we're dumped into this planet where Han is in the Imperial, like the mud planet, and he's an Imperial, and there's fog everywhere. It's the planet that's like in the classic book.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mimban. And so
Mimban?
Yeah, or Mimban.
Mimban, something like that.
Okay.
But
is that in my galactic maps over here?
It was it's one of the things that, some fans were losing the bits of lore that ended up embedded in it.
Yeah, because it was in what book? I'm trying to the first novel ever, right? The first Star Wars novel. Splinter of the Mind's Eye, I think.
Yeah.
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 So that planet was in there, and it was supposed to be a foggy planet, and so it was all foggy, and it was hard to understand what was going on at first because you're kind of dumped into it. So I think maybe that's why I thought it was slow, because I was slow in catching on as to what was happening.
Well, okay, so for me, one of the things I did like is I liked the writing and telling you what was going on Corellia. I liked that. And I liked the opening sequence on Corellia a lot. I loved all of that. I would agree that when we see him in the Imperial Infantry or whatever, that was kind of weird because we're used to seeing the Empire fight with stormtroopers, and these were people.
Right.
And it was like trying to figure out who was who. I was like, is this World War II? I don't understand. So that was a little bit jarring, but I don't know if I would say slow. Once I understood what was happening, it was fine. But again, back to not knowing where the heck I am.
Looking at it storytelling wise, it was actually moving pretty quick because they made some leaps of storytelling leaps where they established he's a good pilot by his driving with going with Kira and their little escape. Mm-hmm. And then we think he's going to get out of the Empire by being a pilot, right? Because that's kind of how he approaches and says, oh, I'm going to be a pilot. And then instead of seeing him as a pilot, we see him as an infantryman, and then we get a little bit later that he got booted out for apparently not following the rules, but it's very apparent later on that he was a good pilot just by how he does that nice little maneuver where he, flips the Falcon over and takes out some TIE fighters. So they were doing a lot with that. So it was actually and I'm wondering if that was what was making people feel like it was slow because they were trying to catch on.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
I think that's what it was, honestly.
Yeah. There was just a lot going. There was a lot of information they were getting in. They were kind of like, oh, you kind of know this story, so we're just going to move on with it.
Yeah. We're like, no, we don't know at all what's happening. But I really like the opening sequence with the speeder bikes and everything. They're not speeder bikes, but speeders. But I think the reason I like them so much is because now I understand the Lego sets that I've been selling. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. I'm all there. I'm all right there with you. I will say this, though. Lady something with a P, whatever her name was. I have been watching way too much of this show on Netflix called The 72 Most Dangerous Animals in Latin America, and it's all bugs. So when she came out of the water, I was like, oh, not another bug. I was like, gross. Because it's, all the dangerous things like in the rainforest are all like crazy centipedes that'll eat your face and like all just kinds of stuff like that. And just like this is too much. There's too many bugs.
Oh.
And then he gets the sunlight that comes in, and I was like, burn the bug! Literally. So what about Beckett's team that he sort of inserted himself into? Well, I liked it, but they all died so fast.
Mm-hmm.
It was like cage fever all over again. I'm like, man. Because Rio was really growing on me.
Yes.
I was like, this Rio character is amazing. He's funny. It's great. And then, oh, he's dead. All right. Well, I'm glad I didn't get too attached. That did feel kind of like, I was like, I liked Rio. And I'm not really Jon Favreau big fan, but I was like, he's kind of, he's got us the whole way he moved and jumped around things. And you had the extra arms and the piloting. And then I'm like, oh, dude, he's dead. This is so sad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and then Val dies too. And I was just sitting there going, no, what?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of with that thing. And Tricia, I've heard you say this before. The story probably could have moved forward without her death, but for some reason, people always die in order to move a story forward,
Oh, she was totally fridged.
Right. Now, the one thing that really bugged me about that is the fact that Tobias Beckett didn't even faze him. And they had at least that we saw.
For like seconds. He was like, no! And then he was like, whatever.
Well, yeah, but like the next scenes after that, it was just like business as usual.
The crazy part is Sandy Newton, what she had, like she totally owned it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I felt like she knew what, and the thing is, she said she didn't really do a lot of reshoots. Like pretty much all that she did was shot. Lord and Miller. Sandy Newton owned the role and knew what that character felt, that she had feelings for Beckett and almost like she was going to do it to make sure he succeeded. But she still was you can have feelings for somebody, you want them to succeed and still be a powerful individual and have your own agency and stuff. So I felt like that part of it, I'm like, ugh. I didn't want that trope to happen.
Right.
No. And the only thing I can see is that maybe it shows why Chewie and Han become a part of his group in the first place. Sure. Maybe, I don't know, but I don't think it had to happen. And I'm kind of bummed that it did.
Well, I'll tell you the other thing, because we're talking about L3 and the moment she has her epiphany and her own, accepts her own purpose in life, she dies too.
Mm-hmm.
But sort of, she ends up becoming the Falcon.
In a way, yeah.
And so now,
there's two. I was by the end, I'm like rooting for Kira. I'm like, come on, you can do it.
Don't die too.
You can make it.
Well, there could have been a lot of different ways that you could remove people from the team, but death tends to be an easy shortcut way. But when you're talking about a universe that is so short on people of color in any type of roles that people are attaching onto, you're just like, maybe you could have thought of a different way. I mean, Maul got halved and he came back. So, she got like disintegrated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, now I can say it makes more sense when R2 is saying things to the Falcon and having conversations with it, because it's like, oh, he's talking to L3.
Very true. And the Falcon likes dirty jokes, apparently.
Yes, the Falcon does like dirty jokes. Well, speaking of Maul, since you mentioned him.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Teresa, I totally thought of you at the very end. So, what was your reaction?
Yeah, and I knew you guys were going to ask me. It's about the way my voice sounds. I saw him and I went, what? And then I looked and I'm like, no, is that him? No, that's not him. Because his facial markings, well, okay, so you're talking about somebody who's obsessed with this character. Mm-hmm. So his facial markings were not correct. It almost looked like he had painted his face on like that wasn't his skin, because the markings were not right. And his horns looked black, and his horns are not black, they're bone colored. And so I don't know if his horns were black or if it was just the shadowing. And then, in Clone Wars and in Phantom Menace and in Rebels, he has his very chiseled face features.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And they didn't fix that. Like, Ray Park has gained weight since he was really young and played Maul in the Phantom Menace. So I can understand that, because it is Ray Park that's playing him.
Yes.
But they could have fixed that with prosthetics, like easily, to make the character have his defined features. So there was this moment of, oh my God. And then what? Because I'm sitting there dissecting his face, like trying to figure out if it's actually him or not. And it went from, oh my gosh, to very confused. To I have to see the credits to make sure this is it. And then I know Sam Witwer did his voice, but I didn't hear the Maul Sam Witwer voice
that you're in love with.
I didn't hear it. Yeah. And so I need to see it again. because I don't know if the fact that I was confused caused me to not hear it or whatever. And then I waited for the credits and I'm like, okay, so it was him. What? And then I'm thinking, and the whole way home, I'm going, okay, so in the Clone Wars, when it ends, he's in the prison and the Emperor puts him there, and he was trying to do stuff with the crime syndicates in Mandalore, and we know there was a war, and we know he got out of the prison from the comic, and we know he gets out, and then apparently this happens, and then we see him in Rebels all broken down, but we assumed in Rebels it was because of what the Emperor did to him, and so now I'm like, what? WTF? And
he just won't die.
I'm like, what's going on? And then I'm sitting here going, okay, is Crimson Dawn new for this movie, or is it one of the crime syndicates we've known about? Because we know about Black Sun, we know about the Pikes, and there's like 3 or 4 other ones. But I think Crimson Dawn is new for the movie. It's not one of the ones that comes from the Star Wars lore that we know of. And if it is, then that makes sense because he's red and Crimson Dawn. And somebody needs to explain some stuff is where I'm at. Cause
now we know why Dave Filoni was so coy.
Yeah, like someone needs to explain some things to me.
Well, just think if you're the poor person who hasn't been up on the animation.
Yes.
Oh, I know.
That is
Oh
what
my
I was
God.
thinking of. I was like, oh, these poor people who think he was cut in half, and now they're going to be like, what?
But you know what I love? I love that it's a story from the animated world that has come to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that.
And the possibilities. I mean, it's almost a shame that we had that Twin Sons episode in Star Wars Rebels with Obi-Wan and Maul, because this could so tie into an Obi-Wan film.
No kidding.
But
this would be great. But,
I know, but we've seen that finale with Rebels, so I don't know if it can.
But I don't know. I'm really glad he was there, but I need to see the movie a second time so that I can enjoy it instead of being confused. But I will say, when he came on the screen, my hands went up in the air. My mom either grabbed my arm or my hand because I was like, huh? I audibly was like, what? You know, because, oh my gosh, it was just so weird.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm looking at his eyes and I'm looking at his face and I'm like, boyfriend, is this you? I can't tell.
They did it just for you, Teresa.
He takes the hood off and I was like, oh, because his horns are like the horns from Clone Wars where he hasn't filed them down like he did in Rebels. Mm-hmm. So they, you know, so he had the crazy horns and then he cuts them down, but they're still sort of claw-like looking. Mm-hmm. So his horns are still a little long, but in Rebels he files them down to where they're back to being short. And I'm like, you need to cut your horns down just a little bit more. And are they black? Did you paint them? Like, I don't understand. Me and my boyfriend need to have a conversation.
Oh, well, where do you think this could go, Tricia? Do you have an idea?
Well, I mean, we know that when Maul first came back, when Savage brought him back, his whole thing was Kenobi, and then he kind of moved on to the bigger plan, which is I'm just going to oppose the Sith and make chaos for... And that's what he's doing, right? Through Crimson Dawn, they're kind of supporting this, movement against the Empire, but not necessarily, he's just trying to create trouble in his own little way. So, it was curious when it happened because I was like, okay, I see all the possibilities because I'm up on the animation and the comic parts. Because I had to read the Sons of Dathomir because it went into Ultimate Star Wars.
Yeah.
They made sure to include that in. So that sort of makes sense too, that if he shows up in the movies that they wanted to, kind of tie in to that part. So, there's interesting things. I totally feel like they're setting something up. I just don't know what.
Yeah. Well, and for our listeners, there's the Son of Dathomir comics that came out. And then there's also a more recent Maul comic that has come out. Ooh. That is not going to explain any of this because the more recent Maul comic takes place before Phantom Menace. It's almost kind of rewriting the original Maul book of kind of like his origins. So that comic's not going to help you. But if you like Darth Maul, as I do, you should read them. Just saying. So all I know is that there could be a Maul toy that is coming out that I should have. So there's that awesomeness. I'm so confused about that. But I'm excited because
this is there is a lot of lore in this movie. So I feel like some people are going to come in like Rogue One and be like, oh, this answered so many things and filled up in so much lore. And then other people are just going to take it as the ride that it is, because you don't necessarily need to know it. But one of the big pieces of lore is the Kessel Run.
Yes.
So did it live up to the Kessel Run of your imaginations?
No. I thought he was gonna like race and like have a timer or something, and then he says, "I did it in 12 parsecs." I'm like, I'm not sure if killing a giant Purgle, if that's what that was, counts. But when I saw that, I was like, Purgle, is that a Purgle? I don't know, but it really looks like one.
It's like an octopus Purgle.
Yeah, it's like an octopus Purgle. I don't know, but I don't think he really did it. I think he sort of weirdly did it.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because I definitely thought that was the most exciting part of the film. And after that part ended and they landed on the planet after the Kessel Run where they're going to, manufacture the spice or whatever they're doing, I thought that the movie was almost over because it was like that big, like, fall after your climactic moment. And then all of a sudden it continued, and I'm like, oh, what's going on? So I definitely thought the Kessel Run was the most exciting part, and I loved seeing Han finally at the controls of the Falcon where he belongs. It was like, yes, do it. So, and I like how that all turned out. Like Lando was upset, and he was taking care of L3, so it made sense that Han would take the controls. So it was a great story moment, I thought.
Well, and then Han says the line that we've heard in other movies. He said we need to something about power to something. And I know the line. If I hear the line, I know the line. And Kira says, yes, we do. And then Chewie reaches over her and he's like doing all the stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's a rear deflector.
I was just like, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. Deflect power to the rear deflector. That was great. And then Kira goes and takes Lando's cape and is like trying to get the fire out. Yes. He's like, no, not the cape.
He's like, not the cape. That's it.
Yeah. So I really thought that was fun. What about you?
I totally saw like the Kessel Run was like a race or a thing. Because it doesn't make sense to me why people would talk about the Kessel Run in this context. Mm-hmm. That it would become a legend that, so that part maybe it'll make sense later on. I don't know, but it just didn't fit with anything that I imagined the Kessel Run was. There were some great character moments in that part, but it was just like, I don't know, could have done something different.
Seems like it needed to be a race, like in the Darlington 500 in Timeless. I'm just saying.
Or just like you were like the fast. It was like because Kessels were the spices, but they were actually stealing the
coaxium.
Yeah, the unprocessed energy source, which was another thing. Engineer brain. Sorry, taking a moment, but essentially in the end, it's like they're holding it like it's liquid nitrogen, with the whole passing it off to, I don't even remember the bad guy's name. It's
Dryden Voss.
Yeah, Dryden Voss. And I just thought that character was uninspired. But they were like, they could barely, don't be careful with it, but it's in a train that's spinning around. Mm-hmm. It's in the Falcon that's getting eaten by the space vagina is what I call it, with the tentacles. The mystery holes that people disappear into get bigger and bigger, from Return of the Jedi to Rathtars, and now they're just enormous things in space. And so it was just kind of, I'm like, so it's like liquid nitrogen, but it's not when we need to do something exciting, like spin it around on a train or drag it around. So it was like kind of like, I'm like, you guys got to decide whether it is or isn't. It was crazy. So that was kind of weird.
Yeah, I would agree that I expected it to be some sort of a race or something, but there really were some good, strong character moments, specifically for the Falcon and the way the Falcon becomes the Falcon. And then when they put the coaxium into the Falcon, and then it didn't work, and I was like, oh, well, crap. And then it like explodes. I just busted out laughing. Like that's hilarious.
I think some of the music, that's like the asteroids, or if I remember,
Asteroid
right?
field.
Yeah.
Yeah, on my second viewing, I'm definitely going to pay attention to the music more. It's hard for me to do that on the first viewing, just because you're so, invested in the story. You're trying to understand what's happening. So yeah, on my second viewing is when I like take in all the music, and I'll be able to talk about that on our next episode, hopefully.
Okay, so Enfys Nest.
Oh, that was so. Oh gosh, that was great.
Okay, I feel kind of old because I'm getting to the point where she's too young to be doing anything.
Well, here's the thing I loved about it. One, Wicket was there. Not as Wicket, just as himself. And he gets to actually say something just as himself, finally, in a Star Wars movie, which is great. Warwick Davis, awesome job. But I just love the fact that they call them Marauders or whatever, and she takes her helmet off, and then everybody takes their stuff off, and it's just this band of people and species from across the galaxy that are coming together to do something really good. And I don't know how young she is, but the knowledge and the wisdom and the strength that she had, there was something about that I was like, oh, hope. Okay. It was a cool moment for me. And I thought it was something that was very inspiring for Han's character, which is not something we're used to seeing. Because normally he'd be like, I don't want to do this. I'm not having anything to do with this.
Cool.
Sarah?
Okay. So, first of all, I was really sad that they never actually said this is Enfys Nest and her Cloud Riders, because that would have been a call out to the classic Marvel Star Wars comics, and it would have been a moment of cheering for some of us. So I was sad about that, but I don't know, because she was so young, it just was very unbelievable that she was the leader of this band of people, and now I feel really old saying that. But they kind of represent, Enfys Nest and her Cloud Riders represent like Han's first connection to a group of organized people who are against the tyranny of the galaxy. So I think it was an important moment in Han's character journey to actually see that, and it shows how he's inherently good, his character. Like, he tries to be the scoundrel.
Kira tells him that, right?
Yep.
Kira tells him he's good. Enfys tells him that. What did you think of the music? Because the music when the Cloud Riders came was so much different.
It was like world music, different instrumentation. It's meant to depict something, maybe it's almost meant to depict something he's never encountered before. So it's like new to him, just like the instrumentation is a little new to us who are used to the Western instruments.
So I actually like the idea. I did think she was kind of young for whatever role she was doing. I don't understand why they didn't talk about this character, having another woman of color.
Who's they? Talk about it.
Well, Star Wars,
okay,
marketing, Disney. There was people who found an insider that called the character he, and then that was like a little write up, and then the toy was kind of held back, and they didn't talk about how. I don't know why it had to be
a big secret
that a woman is doing something important in a role in Star Wars happened in 1977. So that a second woman of color is in the movie and is somebody who's a rival for Han Solo, I would have talked about it.
Yeah, she's not on the press tour.
She's not young actress. She's not done a lot of stuff, mostly British television. But I just don't know why you wouldn't put it out there. Yeah, celebrate it. I'm waiting until after the movie comes out and they talk about it. I feel like maybe this was a late addition, or that it was played by some. I don't know. There's something weird. I just don't understand. There's no reason for it to be a surprise. Because I heard people say it was really cool and neat to see somebody, a woman of color in the role, but that surprise only works one time. And then it's not a surprise anymore. Then you're like, why didn't they talk about it? Why wasn't this in the, I don't know. I just don't know why they did it that way, because it's really cool. I just, when it was done, I was like, why didn't they talk about this? Especially when everybody was talking about wanting more diversity in Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, the youth thing, I guess I come from a little bit of a different place because I work with teenagers. And the thing is that sometimes it really doesn't matter how young you are, because if she has the ideals and she comes from a line clearly because it was her mother before her, and if you have the know-how and the strength of character to do it, sometimes it really doesn't matter how old you are. And the fact that she was able to do that at the age that she's at, to me, gives her even more power and relevance.
Padme's 16, 14, 16? Yeah.
That's true.
And Leia's in Princess Alderaa's a young teen too. So I think more is just that I was like, why don't we just talk about this?
Yeah, I agree. But maybe after Thursday and Friday, we'll know something more to that. Or maybe not. I don't know. Fingers crossed.
I think they'll eventually talk about it, and I look forward to seeing more from the actress maybe in the futures in Star Wars. Who knows? But so maybe we should wrap up our thoughts on the movie.
Sure. It was good. It was good. It was a Star Wars movie without mention of the Force or the Jedi, which proves to me that can be something that exists. It still felt very Star Wars. I want planet names. I don't know what's going on where I am in the galaxy. I need a new map because none of these places are in my map. Now that I have maps, I was looking through them while we were recording, and I'm like, these places aren't in my maps. But I loved it, honestly. I really did. Chewie and Han are the best.
Yeah, I think I mean, honestly, I was a bit distracted because on the way to seeing the film is when we found out that we had a flood in our house, and we're kind of dealing with that on the drive up. So admittedly, I was not as into it as any of the other new Star Wars films, just because my brain was half on what's going to happen with our house. So I want to see it again when I can more focus on it and take it all in. Overall, it was a fun ride and a great distraction for the evening. But it didn't feel like an event film like perhaps The Last Jedi or The Force Awakens. And maybe that has to do with partly the fact that a lot of the characters, it's hard to remember their names, like Drayden Voss and now Tobias Beckett. Now I'm remembering them suddenly, but when I was trying to talk about them right after seeing the movie, I'm like, who are these characters? What are their names? Whereas when in the lead up to the other films, we knew all their names and we're all excited about seeing the characters. So I think with this film coming 5 months after the previous Star Wars film, it was hard to get as into it as some of the other Star Wars movies right now.
I think it was a perfectly serviceable movie that answered some lore stuff and definitely proved that you can do a story without the Force. And all the actors were really good. I loved what everybody brought to it. Cemented to me even more that we need women writing Star Wars and different people. So I vote for Donald Glover to do a Lando movie because there was not enough Lando in this movie.
No. Agreed.
and or somebody, and just even more so, I felt like all the actresses like knew what they were doing with their female characters, but the characters were all, most importantly, Kira was just this real enigma of a character that the story never nailed down. And
yeah, we didn't really talk too much about Kira, but we can save her.
Well, yeah, because I think we'll talk about her more maybe as we hear more about her, but she was just kind of this really weird, I don't know, she just felt very undefined. And I think that's because the women are mysteries to them. Like the Phoebe Waller-Bridge, L3, felt like the most defined character, but I think because she's a writer and a storyteller herself, in the same way that Donald Glover kind of took Lando and made him what he was, worked for her. So
yeah, and I think we'll talk more about Kira. I do want to say though that Emilia Clarke was fabulous as Kira.
Yes, she was.
I loved her acting. She was perfect for the part. I agree though that Kira needs a little bit more fleshing out, but guess what? She's going to Dathomir to hang out with my boys, so I'm sure we'll find out.
That was another big drop too, just because Dathomir's, been, in an important part of animation as well.
And the courtship of Princess Leia.
We get to go see Zabrak. Oh my God.
That's amazing.
What is happening?
They're the only ones surviving after the Night Sisters were purged.
No joke. Oh, hey, you know what? There was a drop to Aura Singh, by the way, which I was like, hey, Aura Singh. But she's dead, apparently. Which is not cool.
She'll be another. I know. I was like, oh, she got a name drop, and she's dead.
Yeah.
So should we move on to? It's going to be a character discussion, but I think a pretty quick one because we've talked about some of the stuff.
Yes. Let's move on to our character discussion.
Sidious, Anakin, Luke and Leia, Qui-Gon Jinn, C.O. Bibble, Kylo Ren, Salacious Crumb, Bib Fortuna, Boba Fett, Amidala, Wicket, R2-D2, BB-8, I can barely keep it straight. It's a character discussion. It's the Fangirls on character. It's a character discussion.
Our character discussion, we had to talk about this because one of our earliest, Teresa goes off on a tangent on our character discussions is let's talk about the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, yeah.
As a character. Now, Teresa, did you know that there was going to be a droid that had its own sense of identity and purpose inserted into the Falcon when you brought up this discussion like 3 years ago?
Yes.
See?
Come on. Of course I did, because I'm brilliant. No.
But just think about how it all makes sense now. Like everything that's happened.
I can see into the future.
The Falcon is temperamental.
Yes.
I love that though. One of the best things is when the Falcon's all modded and pretty and blue and white and all the stuff. And then at the end, I'm like, there she is.
Mm-hmm.
Dirty, messed up Falcon, L3 brain Falcon.
Well, it sort of makes sense too, in a way that I almost feel like it wasn't the shiny Falcon that Lando imagined himself in. So he wasn't so crushed up about letting it go.
Okay, but also I was actually a little confused about that. If anything, I would think Lando would be more attached to the Falcon since L3 was downloaded into her.
Well, he kind of moves on. He moves on and he gets a Lobot. So
yeah, he moves on and he to another Sabak game or Sabak, whichever way you'd like to say it.
Think about that moment in Return of the Jedi when Han passes it back.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're going to watch that and just be like,
he gets his girl back.
Now,
man, you know what? We didn't talk about this, but that is one of the best lines when L3 is talking about her relationship with Lando. And she's like, sometimes I think maybe. And then, no, we're not compatible. And Kira says, how does that work? And she goes,
it works.
It works.
And Kira has this look on her face.
Yeah, so he gets to help with the second Death Star and everything with L3 by his side. Like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I'm looking at all the like layers for this, but like the moment when you know, especially with that, because the moment in the Kessel Run when Beckett injects the fluid in and it doesn't quite work right away, and you think, oh no, it's not gonna work, and then it takes off, and I'm like, that's so Millennium Falcon.
Yes,
it is.
Yeah, that part.
Oh my gosh.
And also the part where they have to eject that front, thing.
The
off
escape pod.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's an escape pod.
Okay. Well, they eject that, and you see the Falcon flying up, and you're like, yes, it's her. She's here. So,
Yeah, she's literally the ship is literally going through a character arc in this movie as well.
Yeah, totally.
As well as Chewbacca and the friendship. And I'm like, wow, the ship's actually having a character arc. So knowing that Lawrence Kasdan wrote this movie with his son, John, and knowing that the Falcon is just hanging out on Jakku with somebody who apparently stole her. Do you really think she'd just hang out there?
Maybe. Maybe she was waiting.
But she doesn't have a restraining bolt anymore.
That's true. That's weird. Yeah.
But can she get
You would
fuel?
think L3 would be like, this is crap.
Yeah.
Well, unless she has a purpose. Unless she has a purpose. We see that she will, she found her purpose. So maybe she still has her purpose.
She's helping with the new rebellion. She's all about rebellions, this one.
I know. Exactly. So I'm like, what's going on here? Like, yeah, just think about that. Everybody think about, why is the Falcon just coincidentally on Jakku?
Yeah, and the Falcon is no longer just a ship that was in the original trilogy, I don't think. And especially since we're getting this book series, the Flight of the Falcon book series. Now that's going to be cool because some of it's going to be probably pre-L3 and then some of it's going to be post-L3 joining the Falcon's brain. So that'll be interesting.
Let's see. Will it be it'll be post-L3 when Luke and Leia.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she had to be willing to go on that trip as well. I think this opens up tons of possibilities.
I like it.
I do too.
I feel like I need to watch all the films that the Falcon was in now with this new knowledge.
Absolutely, because if you think about all the things that happen, you're like, oh, it's just L3 being difficult, or they talk about how she put all this stuff together and sort of as amalgamation of all these different things. So sometimes it's not all jiving, and she's got to make it all work. But just the whole, her kind of birth into the Falcon is the navigation and making the Kessel Run. So knowing as much information as she did so she's almost part of the legend as well.
She is. She is what made the Kessel Run.
So are you going to call her the Falcon or are you going to call her L3 now? A little of both.
The Falcon. But I'll think of
I don't
L3.
know. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I'll call her the L3 Falcon.
I thought that was really cool. Just that whole little, just the way that, at least she didn't.
Full circle.
Aww. Yeah. It gives full circle, especially for us talking a long time ago that she felt like her own character and then they kind of made it happen. So,
yeah, I love that. That's so cool.
So
well, we've done it, guys. We came full circle. We don't have to record anymore. We're done. Bye.
There are now officially two female characters in A New Hope.
Yeah, look at that.
She's not just a hunk of junk. I can imagine L3 being like, yeah, don't call me that.
She'd be pissed off. Screw you, organics.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Anything else on the Falcon?
I don't think so. Now it's just my mind is blown and I want to watch, like Sarah said, I want to watch all the movies.
Mm-hmm. And if you haven't read Last Shot, it really informs L3's character and Lando and their relationship. So I do recommend reading that book so that you know about L3 and then you know about what exactly the Falcon now is. Because L3 is unlike any other droid we really ever know.
I vote for an L3 short series on Disney.
Ooh, I want a Forces of Destiny L3 episode.
Me too.
That would be fun.
That'd be great.
There is a Forces of Destiny, a new one this week at the end of the week. So
really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. Well, I'm excited. Well, guys, that is the end of another show. But it's okay because we have so much more Star Wars coming out and lots of stuff to talk about. So in between shows, you can visit us over at fangirlsgoingrogue.com. You can find us on Twitter. We're at FGGoingRogue. Tricia is at Fangirl Cantina. I am at Ice Cold Penguin. Sarah is at Jedi Tink. And our social media manager, Sandra, is at Geek Chic 9.
You can email us anytime. Tell us how you felt about this movie, our discussion, anything. Contact at fangirlsgoingrogue.com. You can check our Tumblr out. That's fangirlsgoingrogue.tumblr.com.
And you can also head over to Facebook, where we are Fangirls Going Rogue, or you can join our Facebook group and get to know other Cubbers. So just search Facebook for Fangirls Going Rogue group and request to join, and you'll be asked some questions which you need to answer before we will let you in. We are also on Instagram. We are at FG Going Rogue on Instagram, and you can leave us a voicemail. What did you think about Solo? What do you think about the Falcon? What do you think about L3 or Kira or Alden or any of the other characters? That voicemail number is 33121 Ewoks.
And if you guys could leave us a review on anything that you listen to us on and say that you loved us, 5-star reviews are awesome. We love those too.
Absolutely. So, until next time and until the next Star Wars film, da 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 da. Yub.
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 Yub. Tricia from Fangirl Blog. How are you?
I'm still... Oh, God.
That was the best. Okay. Do you need me to do that again?
Yes.
Let's not ask how are you. Let's let's
not do that.
Question.
Okay.
How about did you like, I don't know, did you watch the red
It's like what I always say. Okay, yeah, that's much better.
Go off. Okay. we had this great moment in Kiss Me Kate where the song I Hate Men, that's a song in the show, and the girl who was doing the part got so mad that she got just mad and forgot the words, and she just screamed like this angry scream, and everybody's like, oh, that must be from the song. And they were like, no, she just forgot the words, but it's perfect. I don't have that moment though.
That's funny. Okay, rewind.